how they've made Shedeur a victim blows my mind. He's the son of a multimillionaire athlete who's been wearing designer clothes and fancy jewelry and driving Maybachs and all this for a long period of time. I just don't know how he's a victim. What do you think of Ryan Clark? There's a difference between being humble and getting humbled, and that, these people that tried to humble Shedeur are awful and terrible. I don't get it. I don't understand why Ryan Clark and these guys aren't trying to pass on, impart wisdom to these young people.
Jason Whitlock goes off on Ryan Clark for saying they humbled Shedeur Sanders. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
Despite an amazing, unprecedented 380-yard, 6 TD performance in his first preseason game, Shedeur Sanders did not move up the depth chart. There's a tweet on Cleveland's second depth chart. Go back, brother. Let me read this. On Cleveland's second depth chart of the summer, here is how the Browns are listing their quarterbacks this week. Joe Flacco, number 1. Kenny Pickett, number 2. Dillon Gabriel, number 3. And Shedeur Sanders, number 4. Steve, this is a case, I'm sure, of clear, unadulterated racism. How could that man play that well against Carolina and not race up the depth chart? What happened here?
Yeah, it's definitely something going on with that organization, that franchise. I don't know what Shedeur Sanders has to do to at least be number 2 to Joe Flacco. It's obvious that Shedeur Sanders, he's better than Dillon Gabriel, better than Snoop Huntley. So you already know he clears them off. But for some reason, he's still 4th on the depth chart. So again, no victim shaming, not trying to say that, oh, he's a victim and he's in the NFL. I get it. Drafted 5th round, whatever the case may be. Could have been or should have been a first-round pick at the least, but at the same time, something's going on with this organization. Of course, it's preseason, so you can't, throw a party for him just because he had 2 touchdowns and about 140 yards. I get that point. This may not end well. If it's like week 4, week 8, still hasn't played, Browns not doing good, and they're still playing Flacco, I think it'd be time for Shedeur and his representatives to reach out to other teams and, see if he can get a trade before the deadline.
The disrespect, the disrespect is blatant, and I'm outraged. This is no way to treat a current Pro Football Hall of Famer.
Real talk.
Okay, and looking at that depth chart, though, Jason, seriously. So Dillon Gabriel is still number 3. I'm gonna make a prediction. I believe with certain Cleveland Browns fans, Dillon Gabriel is going to be the most hated quarterback since John Elway. I'm just telling you, I actually feel bad for Dillon Gabriel. He's just a guy was probably overdrafted. I don't know if his game really translates to this level. He doesn't play. It is clear by the shots that they were showing in Carolina. Every time Shedeur did something good, they panned to the crowd, and I'd be like, wow, the Shedeur really does have a bit of a following, right?
Yeah, as far as Dillon Gabriel being the most hated, I know he's being overboard now, but at the same time, the fan base is wondering. He's not a good player. He's not playing. The only reason he's 3rd on the depth chart ahead of Shedeur is because he got drafted before Shedeur Sanders. And I think that's just more organizational, them not being ran right. But at the same time, not trying to put Shedeur Sanders as a victim. I'm not going to put that label on him only because no matter what pick he was, he's still in the NFL. He still, hopefully has an opportunity after this injury to maybe play in the last preseason game to maybe turn the tides and become number 2 next to Joe Flacco. Again, he may not surpass Joe Flacco as far as the number 1 QB before the season, but I expect Shedeur Sanders to be number 2 quarterback on the depth chart in the very near future.
That fan base or that particular segment of it, they do not want Dillon Gabriel, and it's to a point they probably don't even want Deshaun Watson to even try to play football again. Jason, I'm going to say it again. It's the most fascinating story of August.
Very fascinating.
It is the most complicated and somewhat compelling story or why people have this love affair. And I asked this question yesterday, and what makes Shedeur so special, and I guess it's they have instantly turned him into a victim in terms
Yeah.
of he not getting drafted in the first round grants him victim status, and anybody that's a victim, we think, oh, that's a victim. He joined the victim club. It's like joining the right fraternity in college. Oh, I'm Kappa Alpha Psi, I'm Omega Psi Phi, I'm whatever. I'm now part of this in group, and we all it's there's a victimhood fraternity.
Yeah, again, you don't want to label Shedeur Sanders a victim. That's my main thing, especially with mainstream media, ESPN, First Take. They try to have these debates like, is Shedeur Sanders a victim? And again, he's not a victim. Still in the NFL. Great for him. He just has to, work a little harder or possibly leave that franchise. They still gave him an opportunity, gave him a great look in that preseason game. I think the most watched preseason game ever or in the last few years. So he got a major look, even though it's preseason. And hopefully, he can get a lot more run in the very near future with the Browns or another organization.
That once you get inducted into it, you get all these special benefits and privileges and support. And that, how they've made Shedeur a victim blows my mind. He's the son of a multimillionaire athlete who's been wearing designer clothes and fancy jewelry and driving Maybachs and all this for a long period of time. I just don't know how he's a victim.
And I think that's the main thing as well. The way he came into the league flexing with the jewelry, the cars, you name it. Shedeur Sanders already had it. Between his name, the NIL in college, and then his father being who he is, he's coming into the league with multi-millions, generational wealth. So I'm not saying that played a part, but for people saying that it did play a part, I ain't mad at them for thinking that way. And it is what it is. If you're Shedeur, you are who you are. The money that you got, your family, the name, that last name, that's just how you came into the league. People may want you to be a little more humble. I seen his interviews. He seemed like a cool young man. Don't want no issues. Yeah, you can say the way that he's flashy or whatever the case may be, but as long as his teammates respect him, I think that's the main thing. And that's what I've been seeing from afar with the videos and people interviewing his teammates and the Browns organization. They seem like they rock with him, but I think it's the people at top in that front office. I think that's where the games are being played.
And so he's like the sports version of the gated community revolutionary. But I was thinking about this.
Damn.
Coming into that draft,
That's wrong, man.
he was given superstar status. He was a celebrity. First round, built his own little draft room, real fancy. But as he slid out of the first, that is where it started to change the narrative. And then as the second night of the draft ended, the end of round 3, and then you get into that third day, and there was also talk like, wow, is he getting drafted at all? It firmly became victimhood status. There's no doubt. And then it became a martyr. So that's really what it's become. I mean, if he was a first-round draft choice, let's say Mike Tomlin would have said, okay, we need a quarterback. I'm going to go young here. Tomlin would have been lionized. He would have been given status. But in a way, I know you may disagree with me, this whole situation and the way the scenario played out, it actually helped Shedeur. Because then if he fails, then you know what the storyline is. Well, he was set up to fail. He was
Yeah, I do believe that could be a great storyline in his favor, being set up for failure. Again, he is a fifth-round pick. Fifth-round picks usually don't get this good of a look, but a lot of fifth-round picks, they don't got the last name, Sanders. They're not in that family, in that fraternity, so he has something to kind of build off, a foundation. But either way, if things don't work out with Cleveland and hopefully his NFL career doesn't end after his stint with Cleveland, yeah, the being set up for failure, that's going to be the narrative, that's going to be the media headlines, and I feel a certain way about someone being called a victim, especially them making it to the NFL, them having a good amount of money, having a great college career. But yeah, him being set up for failure, that's definitely going to be huge in the media if things don't work out in Cleveland. Hopefully not. I'm wishing him the best, but it ain't looking too good right now for Shedeur Sanders.
never given a fair chance. So in a way, Jason, in a twisted way, you could argue this is kind of a win-win for Shedeur.
What do you think of Ryan Clark? There's a difference between being humble and getting humbled, and that, these people that tried to humble Shedeur are awful and terrible. I don't get it.
Yeah, my thoughts on the Ryan Clark, they try to humble you or whatever the case may be, is that's what's going on right now with Shedeur. A little bit of it. I don't really too much agree with Ryan Clark and a lot of his stances, but for this certain point, think about how he came into the league. We just talked about it. Flashy, the jewelry, the cars, everything, the money. Yeah, they may not like that. A lot of owners may be like, you know what? Hey, he think he can come into the league. Dion can be like, he wants to go to this team or that team. He's not playing for this team. I think that's where a lot of it came in. So with Dion being who he is, the loud voice that he has, the Hall of Famer, the GOAT at his position, yeah, you got to throw him in the mix as well for the reason why Shedeur Sanders fell to the 5th round. So I do think they're trying to humble Shedeur Sanders, which isn't a bad thing. It looks like he's handling it well as far as, in front of the cameras, but maybe behind the scenes, he's a little broken right now.
Every time I listen to a Ryan Clark soliloquy, it reminds me of one of the great satires of all time, Don't Be a Menace. Because after
classic.
every one of his speeches, I just feel like blurting out, message! That's what I think, okay? Seriously, message. I don't think anyone was trying to humble him. I really don't. I just think there's a bunch of football teams that said individually, because think about it. They're all in the same league, but they're all competitors. It's a cutthroat business. They're trying to win games. And I think 32 teams, or maybe at least 31, said, not for us. Not our type of guy. He doesn't fit our culture. We don't think he's good enough, or we already have a good lineup of quarterbacks here. I don't think it was some sort of conspiracy. Now, speaking of another line, you're right. I think there was a line. I think it was this movie, Don't Be a Menace, where someone got shot, I think, right? And they had like a list. And the list was from the man. It was Malcolm. It was Martin. And then it was Omar Epps' character. And according to Ryan Clark, Shedeur Sanders is the latest guy on that list to get offed.
That was a crazy
Steve,
analogy. But
here's my problem, and it's why I started the show where I did. In terms of, as you get old and gray like me and you, all we have left to offer is wisdom. And I don't see Ryan Clark and these guys imparting wisdom. There are things I did in my youth out of a lack of humility, and I immediately go to my Ball State football career. I was delusional. I had no humility. And from Paul Shedeur, our head coach, to Dave Magazoo, our offensive line coach, to Jeff Carpenter, our strength and conditioning coach, to I could rattle off all these coaches. Mark Maurer, our offensive coordinator, Greg Meyer. They all tried to humble me, and I rejected it. And it was a mistake. It's one of the biggest mistakes. And I ended up having a successful career at Ball State, but I came nowhere near reaching my potential because I just thought, and mine wasn't even, it wasn't a racial thing with me in terms of my coaches. It was just more like I was an idiot and I was full of myself. From, our high school football team was nationally ranked. Jeff George was our quarterback. I was a really, really good high school player, and I was an idiot and full of myself. And for 2 years, these guys tried to humble me. Some of it took in year 3, but it really wasn't until I got away 2 or 3, 4 years from Ball State that my eyes started coming open like, man, I did that all wrong. Man, I could have been a really, really great Ball State football player if I had just balled in and humbled myself. And then as I moved into my 40s, it really opened up my mind, and I got it. I don't understand why Ryan Clark and these guys aren't trying to impart wisdom to these young people.
Yeah, I get it. Being humble ain't a bad thing. It actually is a great thing, especially if you're in the position Shedeur is. Think about him being humble now in his rookie season, before the season even starts. But the way that it's being done, a lot of people, they're going to question it. Like, for him to fall to the 5th round is one thing, but to say that he couldn't get drafted 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, there wasn't any team available that didn't think that they can use Shedeur Sanders' services. I understand, certain teams, they're a lock. They're not going to draft another quarterback. you know the teams that don't need a quarterback right now, either because they have a proven quarterback or they invested a lot of money in their current quarterback. There's no need to draft someone in the first, second round, but it's obvious something's going on. I think it's more about Dillon Sanders, him talking his talk. Shedeur, maybe his interviews didn't go too well in the draft and the whole combine and all that stuff. So you can throw that in the mix as well. But, you know, you come in there flashy, flexing. I think most teams would be like, you know what, less talking, less flashiness, and just let you play do the talking. But as long as he has the players around him in Cleveland, there's no reason why he shouldn't get an opportunity. He showed that he can at least play amongst, you know, equal competition. Again, regular season and preseason, totally different things. I get it. He's still got a lot to prove, but as long as he got the players around him, the vets, they rocking with him, they're rallying around Shedeur. I think that's going to be the main thing with Shedeur. So him being humbled, maybe so, but as long as he carries it well in the media, in front of the cameras, this could be the best thing for him. So again, you know, Ryan Clark, he going to stand up strong, fists held high. That's kind of like his vibe, his aura. That's his shtick. You know, he going to say these certain things, and I don't agree with a lot of stuff that Ryan says, but, you know, he has a point. Maybe, you know, people want to humble him, but it is what it is, man. Best of luck to Shedeur Sanders. Still young, has a long career, hopefully, and we'll see what happens moving forward with Shedeur Sanders this upcoming season.